It was a calm Tuesday night when my phone lit up on the kitchen counter. A message from my mother. Don't call or come by. We're finished. And don't bother thinking about the will, sweetie. I stopped breathing for a second. The room felt smaller. The tea in my mug lost its warmth instantly. No reason, no conversation, just a clean slice, like she'd practiced the words in front of a mirror. I typed 2 words back. Got it. Then I took a slow sip of my tea, letting the bitterness wash over my tongue. By midnight, the missed calls and messages began flooding in, and that's when everything started to fall apart. People liked to say my family looked flawless from the outside. Dad in pressed shirts, Mom with her pearls glowing in the daylight, my brother Brandon laughing loud enough to shake the walls. To anyone in Tulsa, we were the dream. A tight-knit family with a growing business. But a dream only looks perfect until you see the rotting beams underneath. Dad, Stephen Hayes, built his restaurant empire from the ground up, one battered diner after another. He renovated them with grit and stubbornness. He believed respect wasn't love, it was obedience. The restaurants are our legacy, he'd say, stabbing his fork in my direction. You'll learn the business, Susan. But I never wanted anything to do with the grease, the noise, the stainless steel chaos. I wanted color, open spaces, the freedom to— It was a calm Tuesday night when my phone lit up on the kitchen counter. A message from my mother. Don't call or come by. We're finished. And don't bother thinking about the will, sweetie. I stopped breathing for a second. The room felt smaller. The tea in my mug lost its warmth instantly. No reason, no conversation, just a clean slice, like she'd practiced the words in front of a mirror. I typed 2 words back. Got it. Then I took a slow sip of my tea, letting the bitterness wash over my tongue. By midnight, the missed calls and messages began flooding in, and that's when everything started to fall apart. People liked to say my family looked flawless from the outside. Dad in pressed shirts, Mom with her pearls glowing in the daylight, my brother Brandon laughing loud enough to shake the walls. To anyone in Tulsa, we were the dream. A tight-knit family with a growing business. But a dream only looks perfect until you see the rotting beams underneath. Dad, Stephen Hayes, built his restaurant empire from the ground up, one battered diner after another. He renovated them with grit and stubbornness. He believed respect wasn't love, it was obedience. The restaurants are our legacy, he'd say, stabbing his fork in my direction. You'll learn the business, Susan. But I never wanted anything to do with the grease, the noise, the stainless steel chaos. I wanted color, open spaces, the freedom to build beauty instead of frying it. When I told him I'd been accepted to art school in Chicago, he laughed like I'd told him I wanted to become a circus act. If you walk away from this family's work, he told me, you walk away from our support. And he meant every word. I paid for my own schooling, juggling back-to-back jobs and loans, while Brandon was gifted a shiny new car at 16 for holding menus at the diner. Mom never challenged any of it. She'd pour herself another glass of wine and murmur, he's only hard on you because you're capable of so much. But she knew. She saw what I saw. Brandon was the golden boy, the heir they'd already chosen. Years went by. I built my design firm out of a cramped apartment, working until dawn most nights. Word spread quickly. By 30, I was redesigning boutique hotels and luxury restaurants across the state. But at family dinners, the spotlight never shifted. It was always Brandon and his vision. Cute, Dad would say when I mentioned my firm, barely glancing at me. When Mom fell ill 5 years ago, I stepped in without hesitation. I covered her treatments, her travel for specialist appointments, every bill that insurance didn't touch. When Brandon's newest business idea collapsed, I transferred $30,000 to get him out of trouble. When Dad needed new equipment for the restaurants, I paid before he even asked. They always said thank you, the flat, polished kind that meant nothing. And then came the next favor. Looking back, I think I kept helping because some part of me hoped they would eventually see me, not as the backup plan, not as the emotional storage unit, but as their family. But family wasn't the issue. Their definition of family was. And the night my mother's text arrived, I realized just how deep that truth ran. It had started with a family meeting, though it looked more like a trial. Dad called it a conversation about our future, but we all knew that meant Brandon's future. I stood at the long dining table lined with photos of Brandon holding trophies, opening restaurants, shaking hands with important local faces. I set my laptop down, ready to show them my proposal, a sustainable design firm partnering with hotels and restaurants across Oklahoma, eco-friendly materials, long-term savings, real partnerships. Not a dream, a strategy. I didn't even finish 5 minutes before Dad cut in. "You think hotels give a damn about recycled wood?" he said, voice calm but sharp as a blade. "Yeah, why don't you stick to decorating houses, sis?" Brandon laughed without lifting his eyes from his phone. Mom shifted napkins around on the counter, too nervous to meet my eyes. My fingers trembled under the table. "It's not decoration," I answered, keeping my voice steady. "It's design. It saves them money. It's where the industry is headed." Dad leaned back, folding his arms. "We're not wasting money on your hobby. Brandon's opening another location. That's where our focus is." Something inside me cracked. Not loudly, but deeply, like a bone breaking under old pressure. "Mom," I said quietly, turning toward her, "you know my work. You know this could succeed." She hesitated, darting a look toward Dad. "It just seems risky, Susan. You know how unpredictable this business is." Her words cut sharper than his dismissal. Risky. That was exactly what he'd said when I wanted to go to college. Then, unexpectedly, Tara, Brandon's wife, spoke up. "I think it's smart, Susan," she said, softly. "Sustainability is important now." Brandon shot her a cold look that froze her mid-sentence. She backed down immediately. Dad waved everything off. "Enough, we're done here." As I packed up, I saw Tara watching me. Her lips moved silently. "I need to talk to you." Later that night, she met me out in the driveway, arms folded, eyes wet. Her voice trembled. "Brandon's been taking money from the restaurants. A lot. He's been hiding it for years." My pulse jumped. "Are you sure?" She nodded. "I found the financial records. He's been lying to your parents for years." Before I could reply, Dad's voice floated from inside the house. "We have to finalize the will. Brandon's the only one keeping us together." Mom murmured something, but too low for me to catch. Then Dad spoke again, louder. "Susan's off doing her own thing. She doesn't care about this family." Standing in that driveway, under the cold porch light, I realized something I'd never let myself believe before. The betrayal wasn't on its way. It had already happened. The next morning, before sunrise, my phone buzzed. A new message from Mom. "Don't call or come over. We're done. And don't even think about the will, sweetie." I read it again and again. The letters blurred like wet ink. All those years, paying for Brandon's debts, Mom's health, Dad's equipment, wiped away in a single line of text. I sat on my bed while the city outside still slept. My chest felt hollow, not shattered, just emptied out, like all the tears had already drained years ago. I typed 2 words back. "Got it." Then I took a slow sip of my tea, letting the bitterness wash over my tongue. Walked to the kitchen, the kettle hissed. I poured the tea, watched the steam curl into the morning light, and took a long, steady sip. For the first time in years, the silence didn't choke me. It felt like clarity. It felt like taking back something I didn't realize I'd lost. I opened my laptop, logged into every account, and one by one, I severed the ties. Mom's medical payments? Canceled. Restaurant supply bills? Cut off. Brandon's loan payments stopped cold. Each click echoed like a lock turning, a door shutting behind me. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't crying. I felt lighter than I had in years. For the first time, my money wasn't the glue holding together their illusion. It was building my freedom. By noon, the calls started pouring in. Mom first, then Dad, then Brandon. I let them ring, not because I was furious, but because I finally understood just how much of my life I'd handed over to them. The screen lit up again, and again, and again. By evening, there were 20 missed calls, 5 voicemails, and a string of texts. "You're tearing the family apart. How could you do this to your mother? You'll regret this, Susan." I didn't reply. I just turned the phone face down. When the clock hit midnight, it started again, a storm of notifications buzzing and flashing like fireworks. And as I sat there, tea cooling beside me, I realized something simple and brutal. They didn't want me. They wanted the help, the version of me that never said no, that paid the bills and kept the lights on. That version of me was gone. I looked out the window, the city glowing gold in the distance. Somewhere, a car alarm wailed, then fell quiet. "I'm done," I whispered, not to them, but to myself. And for the first time, I actually believed it. By morning, the storm hadn't passed. It had only changed shape. 37 missed calls, 11 voicemails, dozens of texts stacked like threats waiting to be opened. I made breakfast like nothing happened. The smell of toast filled my apartment while the phone kept lighting up beside the sink. I didn't pick it up until one voicemail from Dad appeared with the word urgent. I hit play. His voice came through sharp, commanding. "You need to fix this, Susan. The restaurants can't survive without your help. You owe us that much." Oh. The word hit me like an insult. I'd covered hundreds of thousands over the years, my savings, my work, my time, and now it was a debt. Another voicemail. Brandon, this time. "You think you can just walk away? You're selfish. You're leaving Mom in tears." Then Mom's voice, soft, trembling. "Please, Susan, don't do this to me after everything we've been through." I pressed my palms against the counter, the cool marble grounding me. They weren't reaching out for forgiveness. They were reaching out for control. By noon, Tara called. Her voice was low, urgent. "They know I told you about the money," she said. "Brandon's furious. He's trying to spin it like you made it up." "Don't worry," I told her. "I'm done explaining myself." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, phone glowing beside me, unread messages piling up. I should have blocked them. Instead, I watched them come in, each one a reminder of how desperate they were without my support. By the end of the week, I agreed to meet them, not to reconcile, just to end it properly. The cafe was one of the few places in Tulsa where no one knew our family. The air smelled like roasted beans and rain. They were already there when I walked in. Dad, arms crossed, Mom, pale but composed, Brandon fidgeting with his phone. Tara wasn't there. Dad didn't waste a second. "You've caused a disaster, Susan. The bills are overdue. Vendors are threatening to sue." I set my bag on the chair, my voice calm. "That's not my problem anymore." Brandon leaned forward, sneering. "You think you're better than us now, don't you? Just because you play with paint and fancy furniture." I met his stare. "Design, Brandon. The word you're looking for is design." He laughed, shaking his head. "You've always been dramatic. You love attention." I cut him off. "You stole from the restaurants." The words stopped him cold. Dad's brow furrowed. "What are you talking about?" "Tara told me everything," I said. "The hidden accounts, the money that vanished." Brandon's jaw tightened. "She's lying." "She found the records," I replied, my tone flat. "And you know it." Dad turned to him, eyes narrowing. "Is that true?" Brandon stood abruptly. "You believe her over me? She's been jealous since high school." "Enough," I said quietly. "This isn't about jealousy. It's about respect and honesty. Two things I never got from this family." Mom's voice trembled. "Susan, don't do this to me. We can talk." I looked at her. "We're past talking, Mom. You made that clear when you sent the text." The color drained from her face. "I didn't mean it like that. You wrote, 'Don't call or come over. We're done. And don't even think about the will, sweetie.'" I quoted every word, my voice steady. "You meant it exactly like that." The cafe had gone quiet. Even the barista paused mid-motion. Dad cleared his throat. "You've always been too sensitive." I smiled faintly. "And you've always mistaken cruelty for discipline." For the first time, I saw a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes. I reached into my bag, pulled out a neatly folded folder, and placed it on the table. I sold my sustainable design project, I said. A national firm bought it for $1 million. They all stared at me. I built that without your help, I continued. No loans, no family money, just me. Brandon's mouth twisted. Good for you. Want a medal? No, I said. I just want you to understand that I don't need this family anymore, and you don't get to call me when things fall apart. Dad's jaw clenched. You think that money makes you powerful? I leaned forward slightly. No, walking away does. The silence that followed was heavier than any scream. Mom finally spoke, tears welling in her eyes. We're still your family. Family doesn't use you like an ATM, I said softly. Family doesn't write you off when you stop paying. Brandon slammed his fist on the table. You're pathetic. You think you can just cut us out? I met his anger with calm. Funny, that's exactly what you did to me. He opened his mouth again, but I stood before he could speak. I'm not your safety net anymore, I said. Not your backup plan. Not your excuse. Dad's voice rose. You'll regret this, Susan. I turned, one hand on the chair. Maybe, but at least I'll regret it on my own terms. As I walked toward the door, I heard Mom whisper behind me, Please, Susan, don't do this. But I didn't look back. The door chimed softly as it closed behind me. The air outside was cool, the sun low on the horizon, painting the street gold. My phone buzzed again in my pocket, but I ignored it. When I reached my car, I finally let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Through the cafe window, I could still see them, 3 silhouettes arguing amongst themselves, their voices muted by glass. I wasn't part of that noise anymore. I took out my phone, scrolled through the messages, and pressed delete all. The screen went blank, quiet, clean. I started the engine, the radio humming softly. For the first time, I wasn't driving away from them. I was driving toward myself. A year later, I heard the news through mutual friends, not from them. The Hayes restaurants were gone. The family legacy Dad guarded like a crown had crumbled under debt and lawsuits. Vendors sued after discovering Brandon's hidden accounts. Dad tried to fight it, but the numbers didn't lie. Brandon's name appeared in the local paper next to words like fraud and embezzlement. Tara left him quietly, moving to Dallas with their daughter. Mom and Dad sold their house and moved into a smaller place outside Tulsa. I didn't feel joy when I heard it, just a strange, heavy calm, the kind that comes after a storm has taken everything down and left the air clean. My firm had grown. I opened a second office in New York, traveling between cities, designing hotels that carried my name on brass plaques. Every now and then, I'd find myself in a lobby I'd created. Warm lights, clean lines, quiet music. And I'd think, this is what home feels like when you build it yourself. One afternoon, sitting by the window of a cafe in Manhattan, I ordered the same kind of tea I'd had that night. The steam curled into the sunlight just like before. A notification blinked on my phone, an unknown number from Tulsa. I let it ring out, the sound fading beneath the soft jazz playing overhead. I smiled, lifted my cup, and took a slow sip. The tea was still bitter, but now I understood why. It wasn't the drink, it was the lesson. Peace didn't come from fixing them. It came from letting them fall. People ask me sometimes if I miss them. The truth, I miss the version of them I kept hoping existed, the one that might have loved me without conditions, without a price tag attached. But that version never lived outside my imagination. Now, when I think of family, I think of peace, the kind that doesn't demand or drain. I think of mornings where no one calls to ask for help, and the quiet means safety, not punishment. Family isn't blood, it's respect, and silence, when it's chosen, can be the loudest form of freedom. If you've ever had to draw a line between love and survival, tell me in the comments. I want to hear your story. And hit subscribe, because the next story might remind you that walking away isn't weakness, it's